Hi, and in this video, I'm going to discuss how to become and becoming a full-time author and what I think it takes in order for you to do this, full time. Writing is one of the oldest professions. It's been around for centuries, and people have always managed to find a way to make a living with it, to make an impact with their stories and words. So I'm putting together this video so you can see exactly what I think it's going to take for you to achieve your goals and for you to get your stories and your words out there to the biggest audience possible. Becoming an author is something really, really exciting, and it's also a lifelong task. It's a big commitment as well. So I'm putting together something I think that's really going to shape and reshape the way that you see things and the way you see your career in the future. But in this video, we're going to cover a few things. So we're going to cover becoming a full-time author and also the resistance, the struggles, the doubts, and the pains that you might come across during your journey. I'm also going to discuss some publishing goals that I think are really important for all authors and for everyone starting out and anyone who's been on this journey for a long time. You need to have publishing goals because that's what's going to help you get to where you need to be. Next is understanding economics, and that's all about understanding the economics that drives the publishing business. If you don't understand your marketplace, if you don't understand what you're trying to achieve with your writing, it's very hard for you to place yourself somewhere effectively. Next, focus. I'm going to dive into focus and why it's so important, especially these days when we have so many distractions and so many things that are stopping us from just sitting down and writing the words that we need to, writing the stories that we want to tell. Focus is a really big thing, and it's very much overlooked, I guess, in the publishing world, especially when there's so much emphasis on tactics and strategies. And really what you need to be doing is focusing on less things, but putting the energy in the right place. And by increasing your focus, you're also going to increase your creativity as well. Next is also the myth of multitasking. And that's basically showing you how multitasking is really going to be the worst thing possible for you as a writer, and why we're going to simplify things and just do a few things well. By doing so, it's going to help you see much, much better results. And also about respecting your audience. That's a really interesting one that I can't wait to dive into in this video with you. So next, becoming a full-time author. So it's really important, especially these days with technology and how things are changing, and the way that we deliver our books and present them is changing so fast. You need to learn from a community. So we achieve success by doing hard work, of course. You have to come up with ideas. You have to turn them into stories. You have to outline them. You have to write them. You need to publish them. But you also need to follow in the footsteps of those who have had the success that you desire. Because what that means is that it's going to give you the shortcut to where you want to be. There are lots of ways to do things, but you want to find the right way to do things as fast as possible. What that's going to do ultimately is help you get your books in front of your audience much, much faster. You don't want to spend years and years learning how to get your work in front of people when you can just follow a process that works and has worked for other authors as well. Stuff like managing your time. So when you're publishing your books online, especially when you're self-publishing your books online, it means that you are the boss. It is a business, and this is another thing you need to start realizing, that you're really taking your career into your own hands. So you need to start treating yourself like one. Treat your writing self like an employee. That's a really good way to look at it. You're the boss of the writer, and you're also the boss of the marketer. You must have discipline. You must have discipline in order to master these various stages, and also to get the best results from them. So again, treat yourself extremely professionally. If you want to be a full-time author, you can't be a hobbyist, and you can't act like an amateur as well. There's no way around it. So writing when you kind of feel like it, or when you get the inspiration, that's a great way not to be a professional. You need to have set times when you work, set times when you start writing, set times when you finish writing, and then you need to be able to switch the hats and put on your marketing hat and your advertising hat and your communicating with your reader's hat. These are all things that need to be separated and compartmentalized in the mind as well. It's really important. But again, no one's going to give you the discipline that you need. You're going to have to discover it yourself. And hopefully by watching these videos, it's really going to help you figure this out as well. Next is that you need to write a lot. Talent isn't enough. Now, I'm not much of a believer in talent, in raw talent. I think that it perhaps helps you get helps you get to the starting line and maybe the first 10 seconds or 10% of a sprint. But after that, it all comes down to the amount of words that you write. Now, you might not publish all those words, but you really need to get those words down, whether you do it through morning pages, whether you do it through short stories, maybe you do it through novels that you write, you don't publish. What matters is discipline. You need to be writing every single day. This is so important. You're not going to be growing if you're not writing. And when you're spending a lot of time writing, it's going to be totally worth it, because that's what's going to add up into stories, into books, and into things that you're going to be publishing. Without the words, you don't get anything. You can be the most talented person in the world, but if you're not if it's taking you 3 months or 6 months to write 20,000 words and someone else is writing 20,000 words in a week, given enough time, that person writing more words per week is going to be the one who's going to get better results, who's ultimately going to get better stories written, because they're not just going to learn how to craft a perfect sentence together in those 20,000 words. They're going to understand within that week that they're doing that things about character, things about story, things about conflict. They're going to see better ways of describing things, more efficient ways, more effective ways to use description. You see, they're going to be learning a lot faster. So like I said, it's totally worth it. And when you sit down to write intentionally, and that means set a timer, use specific amounts of time, and use that time to maximize your efforts. There's no point sitting down and doing 10 hours one day and no writing for about a week or 2 weeks after that. That's just silly. So again, sit down, have a plan, be intentional, use timers, use word trackers, use whatever you can in order to maximize your efforts. Again, we're treating ourselves like professionals, so we need to start acting like it as well. This is a really, really important point, because by adding this intentionality to writing is what's going to give you the best results. I don't think I said that right. Anyway, stick to your schedule. Look, I use what I call a warm app, and this is basically a way that I can plan out my year across the next 12 months. It's about having a plan and sticking to it, and kind of like working like a bit of a general. But that's okay, because in order to become a successful writer, you need to be selling books, you need to be writing books, you need to be planning marketing, you need to be planning your social media, you need to be planning all these things, and you need to be not wasting time with some of them. Having a plan or not having a plan usually means that you're going to spend all your time on social media. That is not a plan. You see, the more books you have available, the more chance you're going to have of success. The way for you to produce more books is to have a plan, know when you're going to be outlining, know when you're going to be writing, and then know when you're going to be publishing, and then know when you're going to be marketing. You need to plan this out across the year. You need to use Excel spreadsheets or the maps that I provide, whatever you need. That's what's going to help you get the results that you want. You need to become more productive and more efficient, but it's about doing less, not doing more. This is a really, really important point. And look, like Roald Dahl says here, a person is a fool to become a writer. But there is a huge amount of compensation, and that's absolute freedom. You don't get the type of freedom that being a writer offers pretty much anyone else, especially these days with technology, when you can literally do anything from your laptop. And you can sell your books all over the world. You can do it from the comfort of your writing room. And that, I'm sure, is why people used to do it and why people still do it today. However, in my opinion, I think it's never been a better time to be a writer, because right now you have full control over your creativity, over your journey, over your stories, and also about how you're going to acquire your readers. That's completely in your control right now. So I do think this is the best time ever to be a writer. Next, I just want to discuss resistance, and that's what's going to stop you from achieving your goals. The things that's going to create struggle, things in life that are going to create struggle, doubt, and pain, and things that are going to try and push you off your path. We need to get past this, what we call resistance, in order for you to get to where you want to be. The first thing with resistance is basically negative energy. So resistance is basically negative energy that stands between a person and his or her dreams. So all that negativity, all that self-doubt, all those feelings that you have that you're not good enough, that people aren't going to like your work, that the reviews aren't going to be any good, this is all a form of resistance, and it's standing between you and where you want to get. You need to understand that this negative energy is not conducive to anything, and you need to get past it. It's going to exist in the beginning, but you just need to turn it into something else, or just completely remove it from your life. You need to think positively about your goals, but you also need to take action. Thinking positive is not going to get you it's only going to get you so far. You really need to take action as well. But we need to understand that resistance takes on many forms, and these can include procrastination, include, troubles in your life, self-dramatization, and sometimes even self-medication. These are a lot of the stories that we see about writers that turn into alcoholics, or they drink to be creative. Look, that kind of self-medication is just a form of resistance. And it's something that you need to get past. You need to remove these things from your life, because they're not going to make you productive. They're not going to make you write more words. They're not going to help you write more books. So resistance, again, takes on many forms, and you really need to be aware of them in order for you to get past them and move on to the next. Now let's consider how resistance can be a good thing. So it can be a good thing insofar as it assures the artist and the writer that he or she is pursuing a worthwhile path. So anything that's hard, anything that's difficult, anything that's going to take work is something that's going to ultimately give you it's going to be worthwhile. It's something worth pursuing. It's going to give you, the creativity that you want from life, the things that you want out of life. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And this is why when you're feeling that resistance, it is a positive thing. And you need to understand that when it is something that's pushing you out of your comfort zone, that you can really leverage the power of that. But to defeat resistance, you need to start thinking like a professional, not an amateur. And this is a really kind of shortcut to get past this kind of thinking, because amateurs treat resistance and self-doubt as something that really keeps them down, but a professional understands that it's just part of the job. So this means just working hard, working through it, pushing through to overcome obstacles and temptations. A professional doesn't stop. A professional continues. They solve problems. They get to the finishing line. They publish their books. It's amateurs who give up and are stopped every step of the way. Next, we need to start to understand that there is some divine assistance, and that's that the universe supports creativity, and ultimately it's going to help the writer and the artist succeed if the artist puts in the work. So what that means is that by doing the work, it's going to draw all this positive energy to you, and it's going to help you in your journey. It's going to help you get to where you want to be. Again, this doesn't mean that you don't do anything. No, you need to take action. You need to take repeated actions. But what eventually will happen is everything's going to align, and you're going to start to get those results that you want. We also have territory versus hierarchy. And this is an interesting point that I want to explore. So professional writers are not concerned with hierarchy. When we talk about hierarchy, we talk about bestseller charts. We talk about competition, how this person's doing, how many words, how many books this person's released, how many fans this writer has, or all that kind of stuff. We don't worry about hierarchy when we turn into professional writers. And the reason is we focus instead on territory. Now, territory means that particular place that we carve out for ourselves, whether it's a certain niche or a specific topic that we write about. It's something that we create that's idiosyncratic to ourselves. That's our territory, and that's where we move within. Now, that territory is your own. No one else is going to be on your territory, and that's why you need to discover it. And then all you do is focus on that territory, and you grow it. You grow it like a farmer on a farm. You got to slowly tend to your crops, and you got to look after it, and slowly it's going to grow, and it's going to flower, and it's going to produce for you. So again, start thinking about creating your own territory and looking after it and caring for it, rather than thinking about hierarchy and who's the best-selling author this week. Who cares? That stuff doesn't matter. Focusing on your territory is the most important thing. So this is a great quote by Stephen Pressfield, who actually provided me with a lot of those ideas from the slide before. So if you find yourself asking yourself and your friends, am I really a writer? Am I really an artist? Well, chances are that you are. The counterfeit innovator is wildly self-confident. The real one is scared to death. So there you go. You're going to be feeling all that resistance. You're going to be scared, but of course, you're going to be a professional and you're going to get through it. Next, I want to discuss publishing goals and why they're so important to you and why most people don't have them and why you certainly need to. First is that publishing goals. I've got specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. If you take the first letter of all those, it stands for SMART. So the first thing is you need to be specific. So what that means is that you need to write down your goals. You need to find pictures or graphics of what success looks like to you. Maybe it's some book covers that you like. Maybe it's a type of story that you like that inspires you, an image that inspires you about it. But the more clearly you visualize what you want, maybe it's your characters, maybe it's a Hollywood actor that you want your character to look like, whatever it is, the easier it is to define. It's going to give you the steps to get there. So be really, really specific about your publishing goals. You know, maybe you want to buy a house, maybe you want to, whatever it is, use that to drive you. It's fine. Whatever it is, be specific. Create a vision board. Vision boards are great. You know, you can have a vision board for characters. You can have a vision board for the types of books you're going to write. Types of books you're going to read. You can have a vision board for what you want your home to look like, what you want your holidays to look like, and writing is going to be the vehicle to get you there. So be really, really specific about that, and also specific about writing down what you want to achieve this year. You know, how many books are you going to write? Are you going to write 2 short stories, 1 novella, and 1 novel? Or are you going to write 3 new books in a series? Who knows? Whatever it is, be specific. Next, you want to be measurable as well. So what that means is that when you're on this path, you need to know that what you're doing is working. You know, will you measure success in terms of number of books sold, number of customers, or an increase in sales? These are data points that you really need to start thinking about because they are going to show you if you're growing or not. You don't want to be stagnant. You always want to be growing. So the use of concrete numbers helps to focus on the goals and provides live feedback along the journey. Again, with technology these days, everything is so measurable and so trackable. So this is well within your realm of possibility. You can track all this stuff, so you can literally see your growth day by day. Next is that your publishing goals need to be attainable. You know, consider the steps needed to obtain your goal and what adjustments are necessary to make at a reality. You know, you don't want to also set something up that's like, you know, I want to be the most read book of the year or something like that. That's just complete, like the person who has the most read book of the year, it's got nothing to do with the story that they've written. It's pretty much probably 80% luck. Maybe some blog happened and a word of mouth or who knows. But these kind of things, these hits, no one can predict hits. That's why 80% of Hollywood movies flop. Why a huge amount of books flop as well, despite the fact that the publishers or the producers have spent so much money on these stories that they flop. It's because no one knows what really ultimately will be the biggest hit of the year. It's got so much to do with culture and collective unconscious and all that kind of stuff. So again, your goal needs to be something that's attainable. Like, I'm going to sell this many books for this year, and it's attainable because it's 20 to 30% more than I did last year. Or, you know, someone else in my niche is selling this many books and I'd like to be there. So you need to have attainable goals. And then again, over a long period of time, these goals are going to increase. You know, you can also, there's a saying that they say, you know, most people overestimate what can be achieved in a year and underestimate what can be achieved over 10. So start thinking long term and start thinking about our goals that are attainable in the short term, but then in the long term are going to be quite profound. Also, your goals need to be relevant to your career as an author. So don't get taken off track by the bright, shiny object syndrome. You know, if you're writing in some niche but you want your book to be turned into a Hollywood movie, well, maybe that's not going to happen because they just don't make those kind of movies. You know, your goals should always be looking after your territory and having loyal readers who buy everything you release. And then after that, it's all about growth. Don't get taken off track by things that aren't relevant to you and your writing. Okay, stay on the path. Next is that things must be time bound. So an essential part of setting goals is also setting a timetable for achieving those goals. Deadlines help us to set priorities for each step and keep us moving incrementally. So of course, what this means is that you need to have a schedule. And even though life might change at a certain point, it's going to focus a kind of intentional consideration of short and long-term priorities. So again, use time as an ally. Don't let it control you. Set time, protect it, and make it sacred. Make sure that those people around you in your family, your loved ones, your children, your bosses, whoever it needs to know that you're going to be spending a certain amount of time each week or each day writing or publishing, that they understand that and respect that. Just be as transparent as possible with those around you, because we do have time limitations, but we need to make sure that the time that we spend chasing after our goals is actually sacred to us, and those around us understand it as well. Next is basically the economics of publishing. I want to dive into this a bit because it's really important when you want to become a full-time author to understand the economics behind it. So this is, again, writers can't work alone. And the reason this is technology has changed publishing forever. So when I talk about being in community, you don't need to be part of some writers group that you meet up in a library, but it's about being online and learning from those that are having the success that you want. What's going to happen is it's going to help you learn faster, and you're going to stay up to date with all the changes in the marketplace. Now, the reason there are so many changes in the marketplace is because we have these, kind of monolith companies like Amazon and Facebook and BookBub. They're constantly changing the rules. They're constantly changing their strategies. You need to just be up to date with what's going on, and you need to learn from others that are testing things so you can see what's working and what's not. That way, you're going to save thousands of dollars on testing things that you probably shouldn't have tested in the first place. Also, you need to become your own publicist. You see, self-promotion is going to be the key for you to realizing success as a writer. But again, it shouldn't come at the expense of writing. You shouldn't spend all day on social media. Being your own publicist doesn't mean you spend all day on Twitter or on Instagram. But it means is that you need to do it yourself, because no one is going to give your books the love that they deserve better than yourself. And this is why self-publishing is so attractive, because you need to become the person who's completely in control of your future. You're not giving that future or selling that future to someone else. So again, it's not about wasting time on social media. It's not about who's the loudest author. Becoming your own publicist is just about taking control of your future and taking control about how your book is going to be presented and distributed to the public. Next is our entrepreneurship. So writers must think like entrepreneurs. You got to learn to put on your business hat. Now, as a writer, you're just starting out, or maybe you've just been writing for a really long time. You don't really understand marketing. You don't understand advertising. Now, why should you? You're a writer. This is all stuff that needs to be learned. Just like entrepreneurs learn to start businesses, you as a writer are going to have to start learning entrepreneurship skills. You're going to have to learn to understand the key performance indicators and make decisions based on data. You're going to also have to learn how to read that. Again, this isn't something that I expect you to know already. It is something that you're going to learn though, because as your own publicist and becoming an entrepreneur, this is what's really going to help you more than anything. Understanding this stuff and understanding again that you're a professional and treating your work like a professional. That's really, really going to help you. So again, learn to put this business hat on, but put it on at the end of your writing day. Don't try and mix everything up, because that's when things get really, really confusing. Next is your toolkit. So to thrive, writers are going to need a diverse set of skills. So you're going to have to learn to run ads. You're going to have to send emails. You're going to have to help other authors, because if you help other authors, they're going to help you as well. Next, you're going to have to join promotions and do list swaps. Look, these are all elements of a toolkit that when you master, you're going to have at your disposal. So again, these are all things you need to learn, you need to master, and you need to grow. And they're also things that you need to share, because when you're sharing these things with other authors, you're going to be getting far better results than if you do this stuff on your own. And next is about embracing money. And when I talk about money, because I do talk a lot about the business side as I come from the publishing background, but embracing money means that you need to understand that what money is going to give you is freedom. It's going to give you the freedom to write more, the freedom to release more books. It's going to give you the freedom to share your message with a larger audience. It's really important to think that money is a resource for you to continue being a writer and thriving as a writer. It's going to help you create more. So embracing money is another really, really important thing that we need to start taking on. But as a professional, it's going to make a lot of sense. But think of money as basically freedom. It's going to give you the freedom that you want to pursue this for a lifetime. Deep focus is such an important part of mastering writing, and it's the thing that's going to really, really change things for you. We live in a time where getting to a state of deep focus is getting more rare, and those that have the capacity to spend more time on one task, whether that task is just writing or even the task of just marketing their book in a specific way, like just learning Facebook ads for that day, or just writing the copy for the ads, or someone who spends 4 hours just writing a perfect book description, whatever it is. Deep focus is what's going to give you results better than those around you. And there are a few reasons for this, and that's because deep focus actually pushes your cognitive abilities to the limit by focusing on only one demanding task. And what happens is during that time, more creativity erupts. It takes an hour or two to get into deep focus. So you want to make sure that you really plan ahead for this. You want to have a desk that's empty, that's not cluttered. You want to have what you're going to be working on set out in front of you, and you want to slowly start to get yourself into that deep focus space, and then within that you're going to get to a state of flow. Now, flow is something that I think a lot of chi masters discuss when they're really deep into their practice. But what flow is going to give you is you're going to lose a sense of time, and it's going to be almost like a blissful sensation. And if you're in a state of flow and you're writing and you're working on something, it's going to become something that you're producing work from the kind of the universe that answers are coming to you out of nowhere. This is what happens when you achieve a state of flow and deep focus. You're tapping into the unconscious, and you're also tapping into the collective unconscious as well, which is really, really rare these days. So if you're getting into that, that's the place that you want to be. That's where you're going to unleash the most creativity. Next is avoiding shallow work, especially at the best times of the day. You know, social media has its place, but it definitely has its place at the end of the day, and it definitely needs to have a limit. This kind of shallow work, so, you know, just uploading stuff, dealing with documents, responding to emails, spending time on social media, this all needs to be done after all deep work is complete. Your biggest focus when you go professional as a writer is finding more time to write more. It's not about marketing more. It's not about finding tactics and strategies that are going to help you sell more books. Ultimately, what's going to help you in the long run is writing more books. It's as simple as that. Everything else you can learn and automate, and ultimately can be done with, you know, maybe 20 minutes to an hour a day. So again, all that is shallow work when you compare it to the deep focus that it takes to write the books, and then to really delve into certain tasks that need your focus. So again, keep shallow work towards the end of the day and limit it to only a few times per week, and really set yourself a time for deep focus. Deep focus should be around a 4-hour session. And the hypothesis of this is that deep work, I said, is becoming more valuable and rare. And that's the thing. Less people are going to be doing this. So that means there's more of a chance for you to be providing much more high value work and original work if you're one of the ones that can tap into deep focus. And like I've said, it's better to do 1 to 3 things well than 20 things terribly. So you need to know what you're good at and really hone in on those 1 to 3 things. And don't worry about those 20 other things that everyone else is doing. That's not your concern. Focus on yourself, focus on your own territory, and really dig down into those as well. Deep focus is going to lead you to mastery, and that's when you master your skill set, whether it's the actual writing or maybe it's the publishing or the advertising. Whatever it is, mastery is going to help you become a better writer and a better author. You're going to become better at marketing your books. You're going to know how to move from one task to another, not between them. Masters don't multitask. They focus. They master something, and then they move on to the next thing. They don't spend time moving from one thing to the other. That's so bad. It's toxic from your mind. It's very, very unproductive. Develop a skill set and then move on to the next. That's what you're going to need in order to become a professional writer who's in control of their future. Also, we need to start thinking about high value tasks. So only if you're using deep focus on your writing, it's going to produce works of high value. So all this leads to high value work. If you rush things, they're going to be done badly. They're not going to look good. They're not going to read well. So deep focus is going to lead to this high value. It's also going to show you how to produce high value work at a faster pace. When you start to master these things become more efficient, you become more effective, and you start to produce more volume, more high quality at a faster pace. That's exactly where you want to be. Next is performance. You need to consistently make time for it in your schedule. It is the utmost of importance. And performance means exactly what we were saying before, finding that time in the day to do your deep work. This is performative. This is when you sit down and you create. So make sure that you're consistently making time for it. It is, of course, the utmost important. I hope you understand how important deep focus is going to be for your success as a writer, and then as you move on into publishing and marketing your books as well. Deep focus, we really need to become really deep focus students of understanding how our brains work and how we can leverage that in order to get the results that we want. Next, I want to talk about the myth of multitasking. Multitasking means doing a lot of things at once. Now, doing a lot of things at once is a surefire recipe of not doing anything well. Multitasking, I believe, used to be considered something that was good, something you could say, I'm great at multitasking. I think around 20 years ago, I don't think that really is true anymore. People understand that it's just about being a master of nothing. There are less people around now that are really, really good at just one thing, and you want to start becoming one of those people. Don't worry about those people that are trying to do everything. Just focus on what you love and what you're doing, and just focus on that one thing. So again, what happens when you start multitasking is you start to make things more complicated. Things get messier, and then as a result, there's going to be interference with one or more of the tasks. So as they start to bleed together, you're going to start making mistakes, and then eventually you're going to either have to stop one of the tasks, or you're going to have to start making mistakes. You don't want to be making mistakes. If you have to stop a task, you might as well stop it and do it another time rather than making mistakes. So this is what multitasking is going to lead to. It's going to lead to you making mistakes or having to stop something anyway. So why not just not begin it in the first place? Next is discussing a thing called context switching. So basically our brains can't do two things at once. This is something that's becoming scientifically proven. We're simply not wired to do so. So instead, what we think of as multitasking is really just bouncing back and forth between tasks very quickly. There is a real big problem with this, is because what we're doing is we're actually not doing the task well. We're actually creating our brain a kind of neuro pathway that's getting stilted and getting jarred, and it's stopping us from reaching any real depth. This is context switching, stops you from achieving deep focus. Even if you're writing for 20, 30 minutes and then you jump on Facebook, that's going to interrupt your state of flow. It's going to interrupt you getting into deep focus, even if it's just for a minute to answer your mobile phone, to answer a text message, to answer an email. You need to stop doing this. Don't be writing and answering emails. Don't be writing ads or publishing books and switching to something else. You need to be focusing on one task at once. You see, each time you switch activities, you're forcing your brain's executive functions to go through two energy-intensive stages. Not only is this mentally taxing, it also isn't a completely clean process. You're getting this thing that we call attention residue. So again, you're bleeding one task into another, which means that it's getting blurry. The actual result that you want is going to get kind of polluted and mixed. You're not going to be getting that clean result that you're searching for. So this is why the multitasking is something that needs to be completely avoided. You need to start treating your writing times almost like a monk. You need to have that discipline. You can't do everything at once. Make sure your desktop looks completely bare. Don't have 50 files open. Don't have a million manuscripts on your desktop. Have the one manuscript that you're working on your desktop. That's it. Don't have anything else for that period of time. You need to allow yourself to get into flow and deep focus. Just remember, switching between tasks is going to create this toxic attention residue that you want to avoid. So what we're talking about essentially is single tasking. So you're doing one thing at a time, and you're doing this not because you're listening to me, but you're doing it to be more creative. This is what's going to unlock your true potential. It's also going to be much less stressful when you're focusing on one single task at a time. It's going to make things more enjoyable and less stressful, even if you need to separate days. Today's my writing day, tomorrow's my marketing day. Whatever you need to do, keep the task at hand simple. Keep your day as free as you can from loads of tasks and meetings. If you look at some of the most successful people of all time, like for example, Warren Buffett, he's a massive reader. He reads 500 pages per day. He barely has meetings. He doesn't see people all the time. He spends his time single tasking. This is what I want for yourself. Writers like Hemingway, he wakes up early. He wrote for 6 hours. That's what he did. He wrote from sunrise until about noon. He didn't sit there trying to figure out how he was going to market. He wasn't talking to his publicist. He was spending that time writing. This is what you need to do, and it's going to create a much blissful time for you when you're doing that as well. Also, respecting your audience is a really important point I want to discuss. For when you become a full-time author, you really need to have a consideration for your audience, what they want, but also what they need. That's a really important concept as well. So by respecting your audience, you're going to be able to nurture them. You're going to be able to turn them into loyal readers who are going to be really going to be ongoing customers. They're people who are going to come back and read all your stories, but only if you respect them in the first place. So in order to respect your audience, you're going to have to leave your egos alone. You're going to listen to your readers. You're going to read your reviews. You're going to get feedback, and you're going to learn and grow. This is all, especially at the beginning, going to be a huge learning curve. And maybe after you've had a lot of initial success, you can not worry about reading your reviews. But at the start, you really need to understand and learn from real people. And again, this is why self-publishing is so effective, because most people write their books and they send them to friends and family, but most of those people, they have so much baggage with their with the feedback that they give you. Maybe they wanted to be a writer, maybe they're not accomplishing their goals. Maybe there's this tall poppy syndrome. They're not going to give you feedback that's true to the actual story, or to actually, it's not going to be completely objective. The best feedback that you're going to get is when you start publishing your books online, you start driving traffic to it, and you get legitimate emails from people that you don't know all over the world, and real reviews. This initial feedback is going to be the most valuable that you get into your life, and you are going to be humbled by it. This is a really important point. But this comes with also respecting your audience and listening to them and seeing what they have to say, and then if you have to make adjustments, you can then go on and do so. Next is your involvement. So when you need to reach out to your audience and ask for advice, especially at the beginning. Give them tips, about things that they can do in their own life. Name a character after them if you want to. Make them feel a part of the process, at least as much as you will allow. And that's what I mean, as much as you will allow creatively. You don't have to do any of this stuff, but involving your audience, maybe it's just sending them a picture of your writing space, or sending them your inspiration for a character or a setting or something like that. Involving them is part of the nurturing process, and it's really going to help lead to more engagement. And that means don't be boring. Don't ever be predictable. Use also the tone of voice of your stories when you communicate and engage. You can put on a little bit of a character in order to get out of your comfort zone, to be engaging, to be entertaining. This is really important. It's what's going to make you stand out. When you respect your audience and when you engage with them in a creative way, you're not going to be boring, and it's going to be really, really fun. A lot of writers are scared of their audience. You're scared. Your audience, they just want to read a good book. Don't be afraid of them. Work with them and learn from them. They have so much to give you. Next is clarity. So be clear and specific about what you want your audience to do when you do communicate with them, because clarity leads to clear calls to action. So, if you're just engaging with them and trying to show them, your writing space, like we were saying, you don't have to then tell them to go on to buy your book. Save that for another email. I always use the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, just engage and be involved. The other 20% of the time you can market. But when you're marketing, focus on marketing. If you want someone to buy your book, make that call to action very, very clear, and be transparent. Don't try and cloak it. But you remember, you don't want to be asking them to buy your book every time you speak to them. Again, it's a respect thing. If you give people value, they will respond, giving you value back, as long as you're not hitting them over their head with it. Okay, so that's the way that we communicate. We're very transparent and we use clear calls to action. Now, building your tribe is also important, and you spend time with your audience only. And what I mean by this is, don't worry about the rest. Don't worry about people on Twitter that are commenting to you if they're not buying your books, if they're not reading your books. Focus on the people that you know are reading your books and care about your stories and your characters. They're the ones who matter. All you need is your tribe of true fans to succeed. So forget everyone else's. Forget what other people are saying. Just focus on your territory and your tribe. That's all you need to grow. That's all you need to focus on. And then when you find out exactly where they're hanging out, where you can spend the most time with them, that's where you're going to spend the most time. Don't spend time talking to strangers. Don't spend time talking to people that aren't interested in your stories. Focus on your tribe and your territory. And next is be punctual. Deliver what they want on time. So give readers what they want and what they need on time. Don't make promises that you can't fulfill. If you're going to be releasing a book, if you're going to be doing a promotion, make sure that you're delivering on your promises. Don't leave people hanging. And again, to do this, you need to be a professional. You need to plan your weeks and months ahead. But when you do this, you become predictable, and then you give them, they're reading other books probably in between your next release. So at least give them a time frame, work with them, give them what they want and what they need, and do it on time. That's the best way that you can respect your audience. So here's your action items from this video. The first thing is to become a professional. So you need to decide that you're going to become a writer, that you're going to do this full time. And then you're no longer a hobbyist. You are a professional and you're a publishing writer. At that point, you can start acting like one. Next is treat your time as absolutely sacred. So if you don't, others won't either. Time is your biggest asset. That's when you're going to be able to get into that deep focus that we've spoken about. Block out your writing and publishing times, and don't switch between them. Don't mix your writing time with your publishing time. You're going to get that bleed that we were talking about. You 100% want to avoid that. And next is also using a publishing war plan. What that means is treat yourself like a general. Prepare. Have a strategy in place. Have a time frame. Have your goals set. Know where you want to go, and know where you need to be at any point in the week, any point in the month, any point in the year. This is what's really going to help you get to where you want to be as a writer, and it's going to help you break through into those best-selling charts as well. It's going to take some time, of course, but this is why we need to plan for it. And just to leave you with a final quote, it's never been a better time to be a writer or aspire to become one. And that's a quote from myself, and it's something that I talk about all the time. It really has never been a better time to be a writer. You can literally achieve all your goals with just a laptop or just a desktop computer. You can be your own publicist, your own marketer, your own designer, your own anything. This is the best time to be a writer. So why not make the most of it? Why not take a real swing at this and make the best of it? I'm sure you will get to where you want to be if you give it enough time and you plan and you strategize and you work hard. You can find the support, you can get the support that you need, and you will be able to reach your goals. So thank you so much for sitting through this video, becoming a full-time author. I hope it's been entertaining. I hope that you've learned a lot. And if you have anything, please make comments in the comment below, and we can start a bit of a thread. So thanks for listening in, and I'll see you in the next video.